You got a great podcast voice, though.
Oh, thanks,
Like,
man.
I hear my voice, and I'm always like, who's that weird kid? Because I don't sound like, I don't got no, Jamarlin Martin. I was about to be like, Rodney Williams. Rodney.
Are you ready? You're with Jamarlin Martin on Go. We're talking with Rodney Williams, the founder and CEO of Lisnr. Let's go. Rodney, tell me a little bit about your story, more so on the personal side before we get into the business stuff.
Personal side. Well, I'm originally from Baltimore. How personal? How far back, right?
How far back you want to go? When you trace the DNA of where you are today, how would you trace it back?
Yeah, I was from Baltimore. Was born partially deaf. Couldn't speak. Came from a family where we had limited means, so insurance wasn't necessarily an option. Found out at 4 years old that I couldn't hear well. Went to school in Baltimore. Fun times, as you can imagine, but I actually went to undergrad at West Virginia University. I did 2 degrees there, and then I went to grad school at Howard University. I did a 1 grad degree at West Virginia and another grad degree at Howard. I did an MBA, and kind of brought myself to Lisnr, that story. But I mean, my family's also originally from Jamaica. That's an important point.
Yeah, man. A lot of you brothers from Jamaica and Africa just killing us over here. What is that about? Meaning that I'm not surprised that you're Jamaican.
I think it's really important. I think when as family and bringing up kids, I don't know the Jamaican or the African answer to that question. I just know in my family we just didn't necessarily have limitations of what you could be or potentially be, mainly because there was not much that we were, right?
Yeah.
My mom was a hairdresser and a nurse, and of course standard Jamaicans. My dad was a carpenter and a plumber, and and did a lot of different things around the house. So. I just think that as I grew up, I didn't have necessary limitations in what I could possibly be, and I really didn't have someone telling me no, you couldn't be it. It was more so about, honey, I don't, son, I don't really know anything about that, but if you wanted to do that, go ahead.
When you say family, did you grow up in a 2-parent home?
I did. I grew up in a 2-parent home until I was, I grew up until I was 18.
Okay, got it.
I feel like they held it all together.
Yeah.
Until I went to college.
With African Americans here, do you believe it's a big handicap in terms of so many of us come from single-parent homes?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always posting that I'm a product of my environment, and I think we're all a product of our environments, and I think that our environments influence who we actually become, I think, significantly. I think it's bigger than a parent, your parent or your household, mother or father, has a lot to do with everything, right? How you were raised, where you were raised, the components of that, your family structure. I just think all of that is actually probably the most defining characteristics of who you're actually going to become. So I don't necessarily think I think it's a crutch because we called it out to be a crutch, but I know some awesome, family structures that's a single parent, right? Because the parents actually care.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's not about just the single parent structure. I think most of the time it's usually because they grew up in an environment that wasn't necessarily nurturing for them.
So you would agree with this sister I knew at Spelman when I was at Morehouse. We're talking about this issue, and she goes, yeah, there's nothing wrong with single-parent homes. They just push that to make black people feel bad. We should embrace single-parent homes.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that statement?
I agree. I was talking to a bunch of friends of mine, and when Hillary goes, she called, it was back in the day when she called black folks, black dudes, vultures or something.
I think
predators.
Some predators, yeah. Predator.
Yeah.
Here comes
super predators.
Yeah,
super
predator. There you go.
Yeah, and I just think we have a tendency to, the moment we get a name or something negative, we take it and we're like, oh, we're a super predator. First of all, I thought that was a compliment. I was the only person that was like, I love being a super predator. If it was just a jungle and it was a super predator, I was the person that was going to eat your face.
Yeah.
I just think that, there we go back to the eating the face part. Yeah. I just think we tend to take these negative things that are just small examples of a subset of who we are as people, as defining characteristics of why something is it. And I just think if we're the most advanced supercomputers on Earth, human beings, we're way more dynamic than that.
Yeah, so what if somebody said, look, the more you deviate from your original African culture, your original Jamaican culture, shout out to my Jamaican folks out there, the more you deviate from that core in terms of your heritage, most likely there's going to be more failure within your community. The more and more you get away from those those original values?
I don't necessarily agree, and like I said, I just think that there's good values and there's not good values. I think it's as basic as black or white, and I just think there's certain family nurtures and values that should be shared. Now, I think what you're getting to is that I think ethnic or African or Jamaican tend to have more of a commonality of these common attractive values that they tend to push out into their family, and I think that is I agree with that. I think I just think that's part of that heritage, and I think as African Americans, I think we lose a bit of the family structure when you start to have generations of single parents or generations of disconnect, right? And I think sometimes that's where you're seeing generations of disconnect. But
obviously, at least in maybe not in my view, black people, we are in a big mess here in the United States still in 2018. When you look at the data, the inequality, is racism a bigger issue, or do we have a culture problem where in terms of progressing from here, where we are in 2018, should the community be more focused on internal culture optimization or racism in terms of trying to change America? What would you give more energy to?
I would always give energy into our own culture, into our own establishments. I'm a firm believer of I'm never gonna. It's rare that I'm gonna teach another man a value. I'm gonna teach my son, my kids. I don't have any, but my family. I'm gonna do things like that. But it's very rare that I'm going to teach another man a value. I can show him. I can let him watch it. And I just think our culture should spend way more time investing in each other versus worrying about, fixing the oppression or fixing the other person.
A scholar out of UPenn, Amy Wax, her thesis is that, look, with black people in America, obviously, America has oppressed you guys, enslaved you guys, discriminated against you. People, from her perspective, she acknowledges that. But she used an analogy of a victim in a car accident where a person gets hit by a car, they're paralyzed, right? And essentially, the person who hit them can't really do anything to help them to walk again. Essentially, the person is going to have to pull their internal resources and go through therapy and really stay committed if they have a chance of walking again. And she used that analogy with respect to us here in America, where all that racism stuff, the slavery, oppression, discrimination, that stuff is real. We acknowledge that. But in terms of actually changing your circumstance, it's not going to be government. It's not going to be all this other stuff. You're paralyzed, and you got to go through that therapy every day, but you have to do it. So she puts the weight on us from here in terms of actually making substantial gains in economics here in the United States. Do you agree with that?
I agree. I agree
with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's on each other. I think I know in my personal story, if I had let the environment define me, if I had let the challenges define me, if I had let the opposition define me. I went to West Virginia. I went to one of the most racist schools, racist environments that you could go to, and I saw tons of my classmates drop out because of issues outside of the fact of, is it a good school and are you passing? Like, you should go and you should just finish. I just think that we got to stop doing that. We got to be more introspective in how we build each other and the communities around us.
Yeah, so in talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, you have a great reputation with a lot of people, and I noticed that you attend Afrotech, you're at Black Tech Week. Do you believe you being at events such as South by here in Austin with Rodney Sampson, HBCU, South by Southwest, do you believe you would have been so active in the Black tech community beyond growing your startup? Do you believe there's any correlation between that in terms of being in the tech Black tech community?
I mean, I'm active because I'm not doing this for money. Like, I tell people all the time, like, don't ask me my valuation or, like, am I planning on selling? That's not what this is about. I'm doing this because I feel purposely inspired to do it. And I think it's important that my story is told, and it's important that what I'm showing people that I'm doing it my way. You know, the way you see me today is how I'm in a board meeting, is how I sell my product. I think I've been able to break through borders or barriers by being myself. And I want to encourage people to do that and hold on to that creativity and then bring those ideas to market. So that's why I'm in the community. I just really want my story to be told.
But if you went to Harvard, you feel like you would still be in these black tech streets?
Yeah,
All right.
I would still be in the streets.
Okay, got it.
Not the
So tell us about Lisnr, how the idea came about. Did you start with co-founders? Talk about how you got there and started the company.
Yeah, so while I was at Procter & Gamble, I was in marketing. I was the first marketer to co-write digital patents there. Had the idea of using sound to connect to devices. It really just started out as like, if I could create a click that you couldn't hear, I was going to put that into commercials, and then that click would essentially tell a device that you're in front of that content, right? I would be able to correlate devices near content. Now, clicks turn to ones and zeros turn to Lisnr. More importantly, had the idea, didn't know how to build it, went on a startup competition called the Startup Bus on the way to South by Southwest, and the rest is history. We 3 months later, we raised a round. At the beginning, we had a total of 5 co-founders. I have a total of 2 now. So it's 3 of us, and we've been doing this for the past 6 years. This is the longest job I've ever had. But specifically, what we are today, we've created a way, software that transmits data wirelessly from point to point using near ultrasonic frequency. So it's inaudible to the human ear, but receivable and being able to broadcast by standard speakers and microphones.
Explain that to my grandma in Watts right now.
My mama calls it Bluetooth. It's smart. It's a smart dog whistle.
Yeah.
It's a smart dog whistle, but it's like Bluetooth, right? We're being used to displace NFC. So if anyone uses Apple Pay and you tap and go, that's
not simple enough. Come on. How can you?
There is no
take that
simple
down a
way.
little bit?
There's no simple way.
You can't explain it.
Like I joke sometimes. I used to have like simple, fun facts. Like sometimes I say, we are a digital key or we're a digital wallet, but that's not what we do. Like we're a wireless transmission company. We transmit data wirelessly. Like we just happen to do it using sound.
Yeah.
That's what we basically do. And then we do this across many devices: cars, televisions, speakers, doors, locks, point of sale terminals.
And how big is the opportunity for Lisnr here in the United States?
It's a huge opportunity. We actually just hired a fancy consultant to do another market opportunity, and it's over $800 billion. And if you take into account the number of connected devices, and really we only take into account maybe 4 or 5 verticals: IoT, payments, entertainment, and kind of consumer electronics, and the number of devices in those markets, and then our pricing model across those devices, it could be $1 trillion opportunity.
You got a big check from Intel.
Yeah.
Describe that process for our audience.
Yeah,
what year was that in?
That was in 2015. So in 2015, we raised $10 million, led by Intel Capital. It's a process. If you ever raised a round, you got to go through diligence, and diligence is example of like someone walking in your room and like digging through your closet, right?
Did they do a thorough background investigation on you?
Yeah. I think every round, not just Intel, right? I think every investor that's pretty much given me $1 has done a thorough background. They're looking at all your financials. They're looking at all your, they're trying
But personally, they're really digging into Rodney in terms of, your credit and stuff like that. You went through a thorough background investigation.
Yes.
Yeah, so some of the folks out there, when you're going through deep DD, I know a lot of us have paranoia, like, hey, man, am I getting a black tax? Do you believe a black tax is there in terms of a VC or investment due diligence where, hey, I'm going to check these black folks out just a little bit more, or maybe a lot more? I don't see these motherfuckers a lot.
I hope so. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. I'm an investor now, and I tend to, when I meet a founder, I'm mitigating my risk. So the only reason why I tend to invest in things that are familiar with me is because I know it, right? So when a white investor meets a black founder that he may like, this is very new for him. he doesn't necessarily know much about him, his environment, who he's from. So I think it's only right that person does a thorough check. And now, I think as the founder on the other end, it's only right that I get myself together if this is what I'm trying to do out and do.
So it would be justified for a VC or angel investor to apply heavier due diligence, more thorough due diligence on a black founder because I don't see you guys enough to feel comfortable.
Yeah, on any founder he doesn't feel comfortable with.
So if the data said, hey, the firm goes deeper on black founders in terms of background checks, is that a problem for you?
No.
Okay.
If I met a founder from Russia, guess who's going to go super deep? Because I feel like Russia be doing a lot of things wrong, and that's my stereotype.
But are you saying black founders are doing a lot of things wrong?
I'm saying I literally we had a customer from Russia, a well-known, respectable company, and we did diligence before we made them customers.
Okay.
Because it's a high risk. All Russian companies are high risk.
But you're comparing your people here in the United States, at least, to Russians. A lot of corruption, a lot of fraud. Why would you compare us to Russians?
I'm not comparing us to Russians. I'm saying that I think that the clear statement is that I'm saying is that if I'm uncomfortable with something, I'm going to do a lot of diligence.
But the premise is I'm more uncomfortable with black folks because
I don't know black folks.
You don't know black folks. Okay, so would you be okay if black people need a higher FICO score with the lender? So black folks need a 700, white folks need 650. Would that be okay?
No, that wouldn't be okay.
Laura Ingraham from Fox News made a comment about LeBron James, pretty much saying, hey, we don't want to hear your politics. We don't want you speaking out for the people against Donald Trump. Just shut up and dribble. You're getting big checks, just shut up and dribble. Your experience with black executives in the tech space and founders, have you seen a material amount of shutting up and dribbling, or do you feel like there's a very healthy amount of activism where people are speaking out while kind of navigating the ecosystem?
Well, I think you got to speak out with the pain points of things that you feel passionate about. I think the more you have a stage to do so, the more you probably will. I kind of know my position and I know my fight, and my position was taken, right? I took it. So my position is very, very differently in how I want to address the issues that I find in society. And that's a completely different question and answer. But I think you got to pick how you want to. Either you want to be a part of it or you don't, right? You want to be a voice. You want to make a comment or you don't. I'm not mad at both parties, to be honest. I'm glad.
The people shutting up and dribbling are the people being very vocal. You're not mad at either side.
I'm not mad at either side. I tell people all the time. The best part about this moment is people are talking about it, and people aren't letting anything go. And I appreciate the conversation because 6 years ago, it wasn't a conversation. I think something is brewing where we're being comfortable. The moment we see racism or something we don't like, we're saying something about it. It's like a natural tension that's starting to rise, and the tension is just bringing more and more awareness to it. And I love it. I think it's good. It was good. It was good that she made LeBron feel like that, because he should be reminded every day that he's just like us. I just think it was something good there.
How many employees do you have?
I got 40 employees.
40 employees.
Yes.
And, what are you comfortable sharing in terms of your biggest challenge, kind of growing your business to 40 employees?
Probably my biggest challenge now. My challenge is always, I think the moment you start to hire more and more individuals, the bowl, it changes, and the culture changes. And you have to learn how to incorporate all these different personalities and all these different passion points, and especially for our company where we don't see a filter. We are an extremely diverse organization because the way I just look at things, I don't have filters. And not like I don't have a diversity agenda at Lisnr, but it's very diverse. Not that I go out and look for diverse people. It's just that my lens is completely clear. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm looking at everyone equally.
Diversity is for them, not me. That's
exactly
what you're saying, yeah.
Exactly. But the toughest challenge at this moment is making sure that, from a culture standpoint, we're all on the same page and going after the same dream and keeping everything and keeping folks, high spirits. We're David and Goliath at this moment.
What has been your biggest mistake?
Biggest mistake? Don't believe in mistakes. I think there's biggest things that I've learned from. I think that the biggest thing that I've learned mostly was, think of it as being too emotional. Business is not an emotional game, and I think the moment you remove emotion from a lot of your decisions, especially with business, you actually can make a better decision. And I had to learn the hard way about being too emotional, being too passionate, but as I learned to kind of take a step back and just take the emotion out of the way, and I can make better decisions.
Are you at the point of maturity and discipline now where you're that Michael Corleone and you're sitting that employee or executive down who you love and you've become friends, but they're not the right person at this particular time, or they're not performing, and you are giving them their walking papers? You feel very comfortable with that right now?
Yeah, I don't even have to do it anymore.
Yeah.
Right? We have employees. I think in the beginning I was.
But I mean, even if you pass the ball and have somebody else do it with someone, I'm assuming that you're close with, you really like. They may have been loyal, they may have been in your business early on, ride or die, but it's time to go. So whether you do it or not, it's still an emotional.
But I used to be a lot more sensitive. I have been desensitized over time. In the beginning, when you have a dream and you have these employees that believe in it and they start to work for you, you start to feel, and then y'all grow, y'all got in the trenches, and that's great. But at the same time, I need this to be successful. And if you are at limiting the ability for the tribe to be successful, you have to go. And it's not personal.
Got it. And how's your relationship with the people you really loved and respected within your business that you have let go? How's your relationship with them now?
Good.
It's good.
Yeah, it's just how it was. You know what I mean? And I like to think we got a bunch of war scenarios at the office, and one of my favorites is tours of duties. Right? We're still on the same team. Your tour of duty is just a bit over at this moment, but that could be temporary. We could need you again. I was just thinking about someone that I really liked when we let go probably about a year ago, and I was just having conversations about, I think it's time for her to come back.
Yeah, so what would you say that culturally, black people in the United States are more of an emotional people in terms of personal connections, and where the opposite of this would be a very transactional culture, where, hey, it's easy for you to kind of make that cold decision in terms of letting people go, offing folks. Do you believe culturally, with respect to the discipline that you acquired, do you believe black people culturally are at a disadvantage at making those type of decisions? Yeah. Those cold decisions in terms of, look, Uncle Tyrone, or your loyal partner, or whatever that is, it's time to go.
We're just too nice. The world isn't that nice. I don't know why.
That's true.
Why we think we need to be that nice.
But would you think it's a fair statement?
I think it's a fair statement.
In terms of decision making within businesses, we are an emotional people, and we're allowing emotions to get in the way of the enterprise often.
99% of the time.
Yeah.
When I hear about everything, I hear when I meet a black owner, founder, about why they don't take funding, or why this, or what's going on with this founder, they're bickering about this. It's mostly emotional issues.
Yeah, yeah. That brings up a point where Bob Johnson sold BET to Viacom for approximately $2 billion. A lot of people in the black community believe that when you start a business in the United States, you can't sell to another corporation. You just hold it forever. Other cultures, they're not selling their business. The black business is selling to a major corporation, somebody who's willing to pay a big check. You're selling out. How do you feel about that mentality?
It's just a bunch of chit chat from someone who's never had the opportunity to sell a business. A bunch of people, right? I mean, we only know what we know because we've seen it before, and we just haven't seen it enough to understand if it's positive or negative. So I think what you're seeing is a lot of honesty. We're so happy when something is ours, because we don't have a lot of things that are ours.
Yeah.
So that's just a personal thing. So when we see it getting sold, we think it loses a little bit of that, and we're like, oh man, we lost another one. But I mean, we should celebrate those things, and we should encourage it to happen more or in bigger ways. I just think it's such an opportunity for. I mean, we saw it with Rich Dennis selling sundial brands, right? Everyone's like, oh my God, now we don't have a beauty brand, right? And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a good thing if we think about wealth disbursement.
Yeah. Why would the community tax him with the burden where, hey, the industry's changing, technology is changing. Most people in capitalism, when you have so much disruption and possibly you need more scale, you need more distribution, another entrepreneur is going to do a rational thing in terms of, I'm going to sell my company with a bigger company.
Yeah.
It sounds like some of these people are saying, no, that option, the black founder cannot do that or should not do that because he got to keep it in the community.
Yeah, just right. Like, honestly, don't care much, but no. I mean, I think it's wrong. I mean, I think we should be encouraging our companies to be bigger and better in any capacity possible, and that's also how we get a seat at those tables.
Yeah, and when that brother sells, I guess he sold a big chunk to Bain Capital, and then he sold finally to Unilever. When he cashes out, most likely he can do more good than just running the business forever.
Yeah.
Do you think that's fair?
I think it's fair. I mean, I think he's already done good, right? He sold that, and then he went and bought Essence, right? And then made it back. Now it's back to being black owned, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think he should have the burden to feel like he needs to do that, though.
Yeah.
Right? And that's probably the part that I'm probably disconnected from. Like, we should just celebrate the fact that, like, he had the opportunity to go out and do that. And then now he should have the opportunity to invest back in our community or invest in the things he loves or invest in the things he cares about.
Why can't he sell like everybody else? Because he's black. So now, I'm catching y'all motherfuckers on both sides.
I don't know. I ain't hearing it when I sell. So I don't,
You're not hearing any of that.
I'm not hearing it at all.
That noise.
The best thing about tech and us selling data over audio, because most people don't understand it, so most people don't pay it any attention, and I just think it's funny. That's my other problem, right? Just because we don't understand something, like, we tend to shy away from it.
Yeah.
Those are the things we should dive into. Is the things that make us most uncomfortable, the things that we don't know. It's just how we're going to learn. That's just how we're going to learn better, I think.
I had a session on Twitter last night talking about the endowments of Howard, Spelman, and Morehouse is approximately $800 million in aggregate, all three of them. Do you see a role for HBCUs to play in terms of backing black tech founders and investing in the equity of black businesses? Do you believe that there should be a connection between those endowments and venture capital going to black founders?
I think so. I mean, definitely, right? Shout out to Howard. I went to Howard.
By the way, Howard has the largest endowment at over $500 million. Out of all HBCUs for the audience.
It's a pretty good endowment, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, the education system is a troubling system. But with that said, yes, I do think I think HBCUs have to find their new role in this new world, right? In the previous world, it was historically black colleges was because black folks couldn't get into schools that were majority. And they wanted to encourage more blacks in college. I think what is the role it plays now? Is it the creme de la creme of the black folks? I'm not saying I'm answering that question now, but I do think part of that should be about continuing to build black communities using black educational institutions.
Yeah, and the goal of endowment, of course, is you want to generate an attractive risk-adjusted return. Yale. The historical returns are north of 15%. In the Yale model, they have a very healthy allocation to private equity and venture capital. David Swenson, the fund manager, kind of pioneered a strategy where I don't want a lot of the stocks and bond stuff. I want to go with hedge funds who can generate alpha over the market over the long term. But I want access to illiquid assets because those are going to outperform. So, in my mind, HBCUs should be at the front end in terms of investing at least a small amount of capital. They should be here if they want to get out the mess. They should be investing in the best Black talent, not just tech, but Hollywood, possibly backing directors such as Ryan Coogler, so they can generate outperformance on their investment returns. But I do not see any evidence of them doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's not any evidence. They should, right? I mean, they should. I mean, this is the moment that they should be doing that.
The mess that they're in isn't their fault, particularly the top HBCUs.
So it's not their fault?
Is it their fault? Like, hey, you guys got yourself in this mess. Poor management. You don't want to take any risk, even when times were good. You weren't investing in terms of your asset allocation. Was most likely highly defective, where you're just doing conservative stuff for the last 30 years. Too conservative stuff.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, what you're experiencing is institutions that are ran by educational leaders versus institutions that are ran by business leaders. I think if they had a business person looking at that.
Why aren't they talking to you? Man, they need to.
I joked about it that I went back to the school and I was like, how did I end up at the University of Cincinnati's board of trustees versus Howard University's board of trustees?
Yeah, a phone call to you. It sounds like they can at least get in the door for some very interesting, equity opportunities. Even if it's just a little bit, you need to be playing in this space because, the university system is a game of competition, and it's mainly driven by endowments, investment returns, and essentially you need a war chest, and you're not going to do that with a simple stock and bonds portfolio. So relative to other university endowments, Howard, Morehouse, Spelman, they're subscale, right? So when you're subscale, you're not going to get attractive commissions, which are brokers. Your due diligence is not going to be the best. Your opportunities are not going to be the best. You're subscale. You don't have a lot of resources. Do you think that HBCU endowments should be working together on investment returns with working together collectively on generating, outperformance in terms of their investment returns?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like I said, I just think for that to actually happen, right, you just need kind of business leaders to be thinking about it from a business standpoint versus educational leaders thinking about it from an education. And I think you got to take risks. But, I think, again, back to, like, we don't take risks as a people. I don't think we're comfortable with risk. I don't think we're comfortable with failure. I don't think we're comfortable with being uncomfortable. And we tend to do what has always been done, which tends to create average returns, right? Average growth.
And what would you say to the point of view that, hey, stop being so judgmental on HBCUs because they don't have a lot of resources. They shouldn't be in that asset class, such as private equity, which are illiquid. You may not have access to the funds for 5 to 10 years. This is just a function of not having a lot of money. Would you defend the HBCUs on that point?
I would. They should definitely be looked at differently than how they are looked at today.
Big shout out to Rodney Williams, the founder and CEO of Lisnr. We really thank him for coming on the program today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.